Hey folks, I have read your wiki submissions as well as your discussion boards related to fractals and have provided feedback. The wiki grade is a quick point value, and there may be a comment in the student feedback section. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. Your discussion board uses the inline grading rubric, so make sure you open the rubric and you look in the subsections for feedback as well. The discussion board doesn't allow me to put in-text comments on the tool just because of the technology that we use. So just know that you need to look at that feedback. I hope that that maybe the wiki was a new tool for you. It's a great way to create a collaborative document. What I've done with that document is I have cleaned it up and used as narrow margin and small font and made a document for you all that will create a reading list for leadership books. There were lots and lots of good ones in there. One of my favorite is Good to Great, and I can't remember who did that one. The other one is Crucial Conversations. Crucial Conversations is a fantastic book, and it has a follow-up book called Crucial Confrontations. And both of those books really deal with the challenges in having difficult conversations in a professional work environment and doing them well. So those are great suggestions. So look for the citation for the Crucial Conversations that's in that list. I'll do it as an attachment to this email, so just know to look. If you're watching this email and you're like, I didn't see it, go back and look in the announcement for an attachment, and it'll be that running list of all of the books that your classmates recommended. From a discussion board standpoint, I was interested to see that many of you hadn't thought about the concept of fractals as it relates to the business environment or the healthcare environment before. So maybe this was a new way to look at the concept. One of your classmates did a really nice job pulling together the Christian worldview that tucks up in this concept of fractals and how we are all fractals. Rachel, your classmate, wrote, while reading the requirements for the assignment this week, I was trying to remember my high school geometry teacher. Geometry class is the first time I remember learning about fractals. Specifically, I remember her comparing them to snowflakes. I remember her description of how each tiny snowflake was designed by the Almighty God with a single purpose, even though snowing appears totally chaotic and random. Our God created everything in this universe with a specific design that has been manifested across the centuries. Just as 1 Corinthians chapter 14 verse 40 instructs us, let all things be done decently and in order. And that's in the King James Version. My prayer is that one day I will have the opportunity to lead within a healthcare organization. If that privilege is realized, I pray I am wise enough to listen to those instructions and keep the department's priorities in the right order. I also hope to remember that although I am one person, my actions can cause a ripple that may impact an entire organization. And what Rachel is referencing here about the ripple effect is very much the fractal. I would love for you to spend some time thinking about what your fractal influence is within your business environment, whether you're still at the bedside, whether you're leading a department, wherever you are. What's the thing that you create a ripple with? Is it you have a really good sense of humor, so there's humor or laughing wherever you are? Is it that you are kind and you're thoughtful and you take time to listen? Is that what you plant the seed in your environment and see replicated in your colleagues and your peers? Or are there days that sometimes you're really grumpy and maybe having an unpleasant day, and maybe that becomes the ripple that you see in an unfortunate way? I do think Rachel is correct that I think we're accountable to be aware of the ripple effect we create, and that we, by God's design, really need to be the fractal for the fruits of the Holy Spirit. And what does that look like in a secular environment as Christian leaders, as we're walking through those halls? How do we do that and do that effectively? So I appreciate her thoughtfulness in that. You guys did a great job with this assignment. I hope it was something that really kind of made you pause and think. From an APA standpoint, just some touch points. First, whenever you're in a discussion board, take the time to go back and see your primary post and see what people say to you. Sometimes I'm always interested to see who goes back in and reads what people said to them and replies back, because that's really the design of the discussion board. And I can hear, a lot of you going, I ain't got time for that. I get it. But if you do have time, make the time. Go in and read what people are saying to you, because you've got some classmates who your work has really touched and they've made those comments. So make the time to do that. Again, that's not a graded thing. That's just a nice people thing. APA, DOIs, when you cite an article, be sure that you're including a DOI, and if a DOI is not available, make sure that you are using a scholarly, peer-reviewed, current source. DOIs are commonly used in most U.S. and international publications. Very small publications that kind of become a one-off sometimes don't use them. Just make sure you're using a scholarly source before you go back in and use a URL or the hyperlink where you locate the article. Make sure that if you have to use a URL, that you back it up to the shortest fragment of it that normally brings you to the database that you search it from, and leave it as a URL. Again, most of the time you need to be finding a DOI, and it is part of as a article reference citation. The other thing to be mindful of, at this level, you're in your 600 level courses, and when you think about using direct quotes, I want you to pause and think very cautiously about whether the direct quote is essential. At this point, you should be able to synthesize the things that you're reading from other authors, place it in context of what you're writing about, and give its meaning related to the topics that you're discussing. Direct quotes should be kind of a zebra, not a horse. Rarely can something not be put into words that are contextually appropriate for what you're writing and using a proper in-text citation. Every once in a while, you're going to find something that's just so profoundly written or so exactly correct that you need to drop it in, and that's okay. But be sure that when you use a direct quote that you're embedding it in a sentence. From a grammar standpoint, you should never copy a whole sentence from someone's work and then drop it into your own body of a paragraph as an independent sentence. It needs to be incorporated into a sentence with your quotation marks appropriately. So be very thoughtful about that. Otherwise, I think you guys are looking good from a writing and an APA standpoint. Next week, you've got part 1 of what is going to be a 2-part assignment. Part 1 has you considering a current quality issue within your organization. And I'm going to encourage you to talk to folks at work, especially if you're not in a leadership position and you may not know kind of the things that are being monitored, or maybe the things that are outlined. Get data before you start writing this, and make sure that you're getting good data and that you understand the relevant quality issues in your work environment. If you're struggling with this assignment, begin to think about the patient populations you serve, the service lines that you have, and go back in. I've given you some websites for our regulatory bodies, Joint Commission, the Institute of Medicine, the Veterans Hospital, and the quality care folks. Go in there and kind of read what they're talking about with your organization. It may get your juices flowing and help you begin to think critically about things that you're aware of that are in your organization. Because here's the plan. You're going to use part 1 to discuss a quality issue that is actually occurring in your work environment. And part 2 is going to be offering innovative solutions that are not currently in place to solve part 1's quality issue. So you need to think about it as a whole piece. So if you have multiple quality issues, think about the one that you're really interested in looking into the evidence, into research, and finding new and innovative solutions that may relate to that quality issue. So again, you want to look at a quality issue that is current, that you have support and data for, that you can write intelligently about, and discuss how you're currently handling this. And remember that part 2 is it's a voiceover PowerPoint that is going to address, okay, this is what we're doing, but this is what I found in the body of evidence that may be a new and innovative method to address the same quality issue. So anticipate part 2 by planning from part 1. It's a pretty big assignment, so I do want you to be thinking critically about that and to plan accordingly. If you have questions or concerns, if you work in a funky area and you are just like, I got no idea, touch base with me and let me know. Maybe we can troubleshoot some ideas. The other person to talk to is talk to your boss or your department quality control people. They may know things that you don't know. But if you're guessing, I'm going to encourage you not to do that because it's going to get you tangled up and you're going to struggle. First, you're going to struggle to answer the questions in this assignment, and then you're really going to struggle with part 2. So if you're struggling, holler at me and let me know, and let's talk through it and make sure you're on the right track. This paper lends itself to good APA structure. And when we talk about APA, we're not just talking about level headings and in-text citations and reference lists. We're talking about professional writing and syntax and organization, professional wording. So be very thoughtful about this as it being a formal paper, and approach it as such. Level headings from an APA standpoint, this paper lends itself to level 1, level 2, and likely level 3 if you're getting into enough granular detail, at least level 1 and level 2. So if just the thought of having to figure out how to use level headings stresses you, please take out your APA book, or if you don't own your APA book, please look at the Al Purdue site or the Liberty Writing site and make sure you get good support in structuring your paper so that you are using level headings to guide your writing as well as your readers' understanding of what you're writing. So I think that's about it from last week. From this week, I think we're good. I'm always interested to read your introduction, discussion boards, partly because I don't know who you are, and the other thing is I get to kind of look at you as a big group. So one of the first things I look is like, who's the farthest from campus? So your classmate Melissa wins. She is in California. In another class I'm teaching, I oddly had a bunch of military folks in my course, and one of them was stationed in Japan, and one of them was in Sicily, and I had to actually Google the distance, so that was way too much geography for me. Lots of you are moms and dads. We have a few grandmas in the class, which is really cool. Lots of 2-legged babies as well as 4-legged babies, which is awesome. Let's see. I think Michael wins the prize for having the most human babies, with 5 kids. Bless you. I can barely reflect back on when I had 2, much less that many children. So if you have a house full like Michael, I'll be thinking about you because school's almost out. I don't have that problem because my children have left home. But if your world just got really chaotic, bless you. Oh, and the 2 areas that are most commonly represented in your cohort right now in this course are labor and delivery and the ER, which seems to be a theme this summer. I'm not sure what's going on. Normally I get a lot of ICUs, but labor and delivery and the ER win. So I am going to be hopping on a train tomorrow with my dear husband, and we are leaving from Washington, D.C. and taking a train. Actually, we're taking 2 trains to get to California. So I'm going to be have intermittent access to computer and to the internet. I am not dropping off the face of the earth, but I am not going to be sitting in front of it for the next 7 days. I will be checking my email and I will be accessible, I promise. Just know that there may be a little bit of a delay before I can reply back to any emails. Please continue to use the Ask the Professor link for the logistics questions, the who, what, where, when, why, how kind of things. Anything personal to you, anything specific to your grade or your personal experience, don't hesitate to send me an email. I'm usually pretty available by phone. It may be a little bit more difficult as I'm traveling on vacation this week, but if it's critical, I can certainly try to make time depending on cell access. So know that I am thinking about you. I am praying for you. This is a great course, but there's a lot of the quality project can get a little intense. So begin to think critically about that. Plan your time accordingly. Do not wait until the last minute to try to tackle this beast. I want you to be successful. Be in touch with any concerns. Y'all have a great evening. Take care.